True peace, true peace. Happy holy day, peacemakers. Welcome to branch temple number 24 of the Moorish Science Temple of America. We are a global branch temple of the Moorish Science Temple of America. We're teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed that they may learn to love instead of hate. Come link yourself with the family and nations by clicking that block of words at the top that says World Temple. Join us here on Clubhouse as we get started here today for our holy day. Hope everyone's enjoying that Friday and the holy day. Alright, so y'all know how we do here. Every week we gonna open up with our divine supplication and get right to it. True peace. Not sure what's going on with our link here. So I'm doing that. But first thing first, I want to give honors to the divine creator. I want to give honors to the prophet Nabi Ali. I want to give honors to those that came after the prophet, such as the messenger Honorable Elijah Muhammad, C.M. Bey, Hakeem Bey, the master teacher Dr. Malachi Z.O.L., and many, many others. Also want to give honors to the original staff of the prophet, those that was around during the prophet's time, that were honored and were loyal to the prophet. I want to give honors to everyone that'll be here in participation, coming back listening to the replays, checking us out on YouTube, which is the link that we have pinned at the top. And let's get this thing going for this week. Islam. So as y'all know, we open up with the divine supplication here every week. And we begin all prayers and thinking by using the all. So we're going to open up with our supplication here. All right. Like I said, we begin our prayers and things and thinking by using the all. O Heavenly One, the Most High, who is sustainer of all the worlds, we do accept the duty you have laid on us to clean up the filth made by the west and its non-submitting fools. O my sustainer, we beseech you to keep your hand over us to control the streams of the courses of our lives. Our sustainer, and if we do wrong, please show thy divine blessings and forgiveness on us. You are the only one that can raise us, true followers of the news bearers, and in thy name, we carry on. All right, y'all, so let's go ahead and dive in. To our 19 affirmations here, and then next will be our divine constitution and bylaws and Moorish prayer. These are affirmations that you want to read along with the family, as we say here every week. Share this with the fams, your peeps, your peoples. All right, these affirmations are called what we accept as fact, the daily affirmation of loyalty of the children of the Elohim. And as they state, we accept as fact the eternal laws of nature as revealed through science, past events, logic, and common sense, revealed as right knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. We accept as fact the highest laws of nature is the cooperation and harmony of all living things. We accept as fact our way of life is a means to the best end. We accept as fact that loyalty is the greatest of all honors and treason is the worst of all crimes. We accept as fact that what is good for the Holy Tabernacle is the highest virtue, and what is bad for the Holy Tabernacle is the ultimate evil. We accept this fact that the Holy Tabernacle is the finest and noblest organization for all humanity created by circumstances, and the ancient and mystic order of Melchizedek is the noblest of fraternities on and above this planet. We accept this fact that creativity, love, and cooperation are the essence of success. We accept this fact that truth and facts are always and has always been the originator and creator of all success. We accept this fact that all worthwhile cultures and civilizations came about from the ancient Sumerians and Canaanite Egyptians, and the Anunnaki, or Elohims from the heavens, without which there would be none. We accept this fact that for the Holy Tabernacle to survive, expand, and advance, we need, first of all, a revolution of values and thoughts, which must start within each person by being truthful with themselves and about themselves. Therefore, we completely and categorically reject all myths, fictions, religions, and lies that have not been proven. That would include your heavens, your hells, your hellfire and brimstones, your haunted pitchfork devils, your winged angels, and your old man God character sitting on a throne up there somewhere. We deal strictly with facts. If you can't prove it, we don't want to hear it. That doesn't mean we won't listen to you. Just don't expect us to accept your beliefs by virtue of a title such as Reverend, Pastor, Deacon, Imam, Sheik, Rabbi, Minister, Theologian, etc. That is your sensationalism, and we deal with just the facts. We accept this fact that the only true revolution is a war of good against evil, right against wrong, fairness against unfairness, loyalty against disloyalty, sincerity against insincerity, honesty against dishonesty. And this war is fought within each person among the agreeable and disagreeable Elohims that make up your willpower. We accept this fact that the unity of our community and its success will only happen with cooperation, with all involved. We accept this fact, the total unification of all humanity on the basis of truth. That is, accepting people and races for who and what they are, respecting their culture, their languages, and their beliefs, and expect the same. We accept this fact that the human race, its biological and cultural heritage, is now under attack by our own morals, our self-righteousness, our desire to control industry. And these things attack the very existence of humanity. We accept this fact that males as well as females are equal in all things and should be dealt with as partners in all matters. We accept this fact that no one race of people is better than the other. In fact, no one wins the race and racism. We accept this fact that communication between different people is the cure to the ignorance that breeds the disease hate. We accept this fact that a good and well-rounded education could prevent most of the ignorance that plagues the world. We accept this fact that the all is just that, the all. You can't take from the all, you can't add to the all. We all within the all is one. That is our concept of what you call a deity. To the fulfillment of these facts, we children of the Elohim forever pledge our lives, our sacred honor, and our spiritual zeal. All right, y'all. So let's go ahead and get into our prayer and the divine constitution and bylaws of the Moorish Temple of America. All right. So y'all know how this go. Facing the east, feet at a 45-degree angle. 2 fingers up, 5 fingers up. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation by night and by day through His holy prophet, Ali. Amen. All right, y'all. So let's jump right into the divine constitution and bylaws as they read Act 1. The Grand Sheik and the Chairman of the Moorish Temple of America is empowered to make law and enforce laws with the assistance of the Prophet and the Grand Body of the Moorish Temple of America. The Assistant Grand Sheik is to assist the Grand Sheik in all affairs if he lives according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and it is known before the members of the Moorish Temple of America. Act 2. All meetings are to be open and closed promptly according to the Circle 7 and love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Friday is our holy day of rest because on a Friday the first man was formed in flesh, and on a Friday the first man departed out of flesh and ascended unto his Father God Allah. But that cause Friday is the holy day for all Muslims all over the world. Act 3. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice must be proclaimed and practiced by all members of the Moorish Temple of America. No member is to put in danger or accuse falsely his brother or sister on any occasion at all that may harm his brother or sister, because Allah is love. Act 4. All members must preserve these holy and divine laws, and all members must obey the laws of the government, because by being a Moorish American, you are a part and parcel of the government and must live the life accordingly. Act 5. This organization of the Moorish Temple of America is not to cause any confusion or to overthrow the laws and constitution of the said government, but to obey hereby. Act 6. With us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we're teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are a part and parcel of the said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the H.I.M who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7. All members must promptly attend their meetings and become a part and parcel of all uplifting acts to the Moorish Science Temple of America. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Then you are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become part of the uplifting of humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet. That will draw lead through the guidance of his father, God. All right, y'all. So we're going to jump right into our weekly readings for this week. Get into our weekly readings for the week. So we open up here every week with chapter 25 of the Moorish Holy Qur'an, chapter 7. Right, y'all? Chapter 25 is called the Holy Covenant of the Asiatic Nation. And as I say here every week, this is the precursor for all intents, actions, and behaviors of members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Alright, so chapter 25 as it reads, Yield the children provided for by his care, and the breast of one mother had given you suck. Let the bonds of affection therefore unite thee with thy brothers, that peace and happiness may dwell in thy father's house. And when ye separate in the world, remember the relation that bindeth you to love and unity, and prefer not a stranger before thy own blood. If thy brothers in adversity assist him, if thy sisters in trouble forsake her not. So shall the fortunes of thy father contribute to the support of his whole race, and his care be continued to you all in your love to each other. So what we're carrying on is that pristine purity of true Islam, the pristine Islam, before it was tampered with, before it was used as a tool of international crimes, genocide, kidnapping, and many other things that came with it. From today, what is considered the Orthodox Islam. This is what we're here to carry on. So a lot of the members of the Moorish Temple of America, the Divine National Movement, when we reflect on what we say, what our religion is, Islam says being peace. And we know we're not just talking about the Orthodox Islam, we're talking about the ancient and divine creed. The ancient and divine creed. And acknowledging the fact that Islam was used by Pale Arabs to enslave the Africans, to enslave the dark-skinned Pale Arabs or the Moorish Arabs. And really acknowledge that history in our temples as we teach. All right, so we're going to jump right into chapter 47 and chapter 48, continue on and open it up for this week's sermon. Chapter 25 is called Egypt, the capital empire of the dominion of Africa. And it reads, The inhabitants of Africa are the descendants of the ancient Canaanites from the land of Canaan. Old man Cush and his family are the first inhabitants of Africa who came from the land of Canaan. His father Ham and his family was second. Then came the word Ethiopia, which means the demarcation line of the dominion of Amexem, the first true and divine name of Africa, the dividing of the land between the father and the son. The dominion of Cush, northeast and southeast Africa, and northwest and southwest was his father's dominion of Africa. In later years, many of their brethren from Asia and the Holy Lands joined them. The Moabites from the land of Moab, who received permission from the pharaohs of Egypt to settle and inhabit northwest Africa, they were the founders and all the true possessors of the present Moroccan Empire, with their Canaanite, Hittite, and Amorite brethren, who saw her from the land of Canaan seeking new homes. Their dominion and inhabitation extended from northeast and southwest Africa across Great Atlantis, even into the present North, South, and Central America, and also Mexico and the Atlantis Islands, before the great earthquake which caused the Great Atlantic Ocean. The river Nile was dredged and made by the ancient pharaohs of Egypt in order to trade with the surrounding kingdoms. Also, the Niger River was dredged by the great pharaoh of Egypt in those ancient days for trade, and it extends eastward from the river Nile westward across the Great Atlantic. It was used for trade and transportation. According to all true and divine records of the human race, there is no Negro, black, or colored race attached to the human family, because all the inhabitants of Africa were and are of the human race, descendants of the ancient Canaanite nation from the Holy Land of Canaan. Which your ancient forefathers were, you are today without doubt or contradiction. There's no one who was able to change man from the descendant nature of his forefathers, unless his power extends beyond the great universal creator Allah himself. These holy and divine laws are from the prophet Zabuwr, the founder of the uniting of the Moorish Temple of America. These laws are to be strictly preserved by members of all the temples of the Moorish Temple of America, that they will learn to open their meeting and guide it according to the principles of love, true peace, freedom, and justice. Every subordinate temple of the grand major temples to form under the covenant of love, true peace, freedom, and justice, and to create their own laws and customs in conjunction with the laws of the Holy Prophet and the Grand Temple. Our prophet Zabuwr was sent by the great God Allah to warn all Asiatics of America to repent from their sinful ways before that great and awful day that is sure to come. The time is coming, every nation must worship under its own vine and fig tree, and every tongue must confess his own. Through sin and disobedience, every nation has suffered slavery due to the fact that they honored not the creed and principles of their forefathers. That is why the nationality of the Moors was taken away from them in 1774, and the word Negro, black, and colored was given to the Asiatics of America, who were of Moorish descent, because they honored not the principles of their mother and father, and straight after the gods of Europe, of whom they knew nothing. Islam. So, right there, we see who are your true people of ancient Palestine, ancient Israel, the land of Canaan, what is called the Holy Land. These are Moorish people. They got videos I just got a chance to watch this week showing that it was mostly populated with Moorish or darker skinned people in Jerusalem. So there's a lot of research that we as a people are still uncovering and have to get into. All right, so moving on to chapter 48, called The End of Time and the Fulfilling of the Prophecy. And as it reads, the last prophet in these days is Zabuwr, who was prepared divinely in due time by Allah to redeem men from their sinful ways, and to warn them of the great wrath which is sure to come upon the earth. John the Baptist was the forerunner of Jesus in those days to warn and stir up the nation and prepare them to receive the divine creed, which was to be taught by Jesus. In these modern days, there came a forerunner of Jesus who was divinely prepared by the great God Allah, and his name is Marcus Garvey, who did teach and warn the nations of the earth to prepare to meet the coming prophet, who was to bring the true and divine creed of Islam, and his name is Zabuwr, who was prepared and sent to this earth by Allah to teach the old-time religion and the everlasting gospel to the sons of men, that every nation shall and must worship under their own vine and fig tree, and return to their own and be one with their Father God Allah. The Moorish Temple of America is a lawfully chartered and incorporated organization. Any subordinate temple that desires to receive a charter, the prophet has them to issue to every state throughout the United States, etc., that the world may hear and know the truth that among the descendants of Africa there is still much wisdom to be learned in these days for the redemption of the sons of men, under love, true peace, freedom, and justice. We as a clean and pure nation descended from the inhabitants of Africa do not desire to amalgamate or marry into the families of the pale-skinned nations of Europe, neither serve the gods of their religion, because our forefathers are the true and divine founders of the first religious creed for the redemption and salvation of mankind on earth. Therefore, we are returning the church and Christianity back to the European nation, as it was prepared by their forefathers for their earthly salvation, while we, the Moorish Americans, are returning to Islam, which is founded by our forefathers for our earthly and divine salvation. The covenant of the great God Allah, honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be longer upon the earth land, which the Lord thy God, Allah, hath given thee. Come, all ye Asiatics of America, and hear the truth about your nationality and birthrights, because you are not Negroes. None of your forefathers' ancient and divine creed that you will learn to love instead of hate. We're trying to uplift fallen humanity. Come and link yourself with the family of nations, we honor all truth and divine prophet. Islam. Alright, so go ahead and kick it off for this week. That pretty much verifies what I was just stating about ancient and divine creed. Now, do those of Islam, do they have a place where they gather? Do they have a holy gathering? Yeah, they the same way. We just don't refer to it as a church, even though it's pretty much the same thing, or similar in a sense, but it's a gathering. It's a gathering of the people. The word church comes from kratos, which means power. And the power that derives from two or more gathering their name. And then you have a mosque or masjid, which is like a temple, basically. But we do want to acknowledge the fact that when you're getting into the text, the readings, when you're getting into the readings, you really got to dive in, because in Islam talks about Yahshua just as much as what they would consider to be in Christianity. Now, it's definitely from a different perspective, because some Christian sects look at Jesus as God and God himself and get into the whole Trinity factor of things. But being that a masjid or mosque, which goes back to ancient Egypt and similar to what's called a Berber, the temple or the mosque is basically a place of prostration, a place of prayer where you do your prayers, a place of supplication. And that was done at what's called a Berber in ancient Egypt. And then masjid later on, or the ohel in Hebrew. You have other names yet for the name for a tabernacle in Hebrew, then the name for a tabernacle or a temple, same thing. So when we get into this text, like I said, you find Jesus being spoken about, or Isa al-Masih being spoken about, or Isa or Miriam being spoken about just as much as it is in the Christian text, but from a different perspective, like I mentioned. So the difference, and a major difference between Islam and these ancient and divine principles being acknowledged, is that Islam is acknowledging the scholastical understanding of these scriptures, and really established to give you a reminder, dhikr, remembrance of those of old, those the ancient ones. So when it comes to acknowledging the prophets, acknowledging the sacred scriptures beforehand, things like that, you really got to dive in to those texts in order to actually understand the message in the Quran. Because the messages in the Quran are nothing but reminders, as we read the Quran here every week ourselves. They're nothing but reminders of these ancient scrolls, these ancient texts. And so when you start to look at this, and like I mentioned last week, you also have to acknowledge the actual history that came along with it, which is basically what is being done within the writings of the Qur'an. Now, some things might be a little off according to certain perspectives, and then others could say that it's not off. Some say that the Qur'an hasn't been tampered with; it is the writings of God, etc. But we know that a lot of things have been changed since what you would consider the original Quran and the manuscripts of the original Quran, and many different versions of that different types of manuscripts that come with that. And we understand from reading the translation by the Master Teacher Dr. Malachi Zabuwr, the ancient doesn't mean the oldest. So you want to take that into perspective, especially when we're discussing things about what happened in the past, how most people are being taught to observe certain events in the past. For example, like we talked about last week with Moses and the whole Hekakasu and the Israelites being enslaved by the Pharaoh, and not knowing that the Pharaoh during that time was actually a Hekakasu, or not an original Pharaoh, because the Pharaohs have a bloodline lineage, and a lot of imams in Islam, they also look at Judaism or Jewish knowledge and teachings as a racial thing, but not realizing that you find the genealogy, the heritage, the lineage within Islam as well too. And I think we had some people from another sect coming to the room last year, talking about the will of Allah, like literally like the testamentary will that gets passed down from generation to generation. And that was one of the points that we was addressing, is that we follow the true lineage and the true bloodline of those of the Islamic faith, which actually, if we look at it, Islam, it just means the submission to Allah. So that's also describing an event the same way the word Hebrew is describing an event or an action that took place, which Hebrew meant those who crossed over. So when we talk about the actual religion, and we say Islamicism, that means it's getting into the principles of that culture. And Islam means the submission to Allah, means the submission to Allah, along with his statutes, his ordinances, things like that. So that means we're actually following the halakha, or what they would call in Arabic Sharia. So when you have all these different sects and things like that, that's what you kind of get into. So when we look at these things from the perspective of understanding where the prophet was coming from, and why he mentioned Islamicism as our religion and the ancient and divine creed, we're talking about those ancient cultures. Because even when you look at it, indentured servitude, racism, prejudice, a lot of these things didn't happen at the same time. And today, especially with the current events of things that's taking place now, you have a mix-up of attacking so-called individual racism versus systematic racism. And if you don't know the history behind all this, you can definitely get mixed up. And then, of course, you're gonna have those so-called house Negroes that follow along with whatever the person in charge of oppression at the time is pushing in their narratives. And we can literally see not just the division get created between these different sides through the Hegelian dialectic, because this current event that's taking place over the past couple of weeks or the past 2 weeks has definitely shown great examples of how to create a wedge between people and how to do it with two different sides. And we did a whole kupa on this particular topic here, but I don't want to go too far into that because I do want to lead us into our monetary series and start getting into our sermons about the money system, the monetary system, and how we also have our own too as well. Just like we got into the economic system, which is based on these religious principles at heart and at origin. So, really diving in to the perspective of hermeneutics when it comes to looking at these different cultures, how they was grafted, their origins, and how they thought, how they think. We really have to deep dive into these things ourselves, like Dr. Ben pushed during his days, and other scholars were pushing toward during that time. Because now realizing that you have people getting into your history, your science, your culture, but they're not going to say it like you would. So you really have to dive in and really get the perspective or the hermeneutics from people that were there, that actually know the language, that know the science, that know the history, the deep dive. Because you have a mix-up all across the world, especially when it comes to studying your culture, your people's knowledge. And if we really get into this information like Dr. Ben has mentioned, it'll cause a real revelation, a real revolution of things. So we got to dive in ourselves, and that's exactly like we did in the economic series. We're gonna dive in from the indigenous people's perspective. What is the indigenous people's mark on the monetary system? Like we dived into what are the indigenous people's mark already on the economic structure of today, economic philosophy, the way that we think economically. So we're going to be diving into that here as we continue on. But like I say, first we have to lay down some basic understandings on what is taking place today. Realize with real eyes, with our real eyes, these real lies that are going on, especially when you have the so-called elites or Zionists playing chess moves right in front of your eyes and not understanding how to follow the money, let alone even how the monetary system works, because we're going to have to dive into the history of the so-called elite and how they think today and the principles they stand on to even understand what is taking place. Because not understanding that we melanated Nubian Moorish people are the indigenous people of Palestine. We're looking at the information through the Holy Quran Circle 7. It's right there in the text. It's right there in the text. So there's a lot of talk about this being led up to World War III. This being like a precursor event that will lead us into World War III. And we talked about this last year. We put this on record in the temple. You'd be surprised it would be more people in here after we went through the deep dive and who did hear the recording or the replay that didn't really say, well, wait a minute. How does Spirit have y'all in tune and everyone around us is not really in tune or ready for that level of conversation based on the way the Spirit of things is moving? Because we actually read this out from the master teacher, translated version of El's Holy Injiyl, or El's Injiyl, the Holy Injiyl, the book of Revelations. And now, not even a year later, we're here. And we're leading up to the year 2024 to the year 2030. And it's just like clockwork. The events are playing out just like clockwork. So understanding the monetary policy, how things will change monetarily with other events taking place that are also affecting these things. With the Pope referring to Klaus Schwab as, the best man since Jesus to handle these global issues that we're having from the World Economic Forum. A lot of things is really showing its face at this current time. So we're going to get into this monetary series and discuss our monetary policies, because that's going to help us as a people understand the macro and microeconomics of our own system that we are developing through using community finance, decentralized finance structures, and how to survive through whatever is to come. But we know it's something major that's really going to happen with all this stuff taking place. And the warning signals are there, and we don't want to be missing out by turning our heads to, turning our heads to the wrong direction, turning our heads away from the knowledge and the information that's constantly being put out there. So we're going to dive into this monetary policy and do a deep dive. But like I said, we're going to get into it also as well from the indigenous standpoint on how money worked back in the day, how money worked in ancient Babylon, how money worked in ancient Jerusalem, Palestine, across the world, how we went from shillings to or shekels to what we have today, to the dollar, from the shekel to the dollar. And other currencies across the world that led up to the dollar, because before the dollar, you had what was called the dollar, and it was based on silver, and 8 ounces of silver, to be exact. So we're gonna get into these things, how they work, why gold and silver was made to be the currency for the world at one time, and then that even switched over, and other forms of currency that us as ancient indigenous people use across the world. And this is how we're going to know also how we connected as a people globally across the world. That ancient African chief, or that ancient indigenous chieftain system that I'm always constantly mentioning. How we know for a fact that there was a global system set up in the old world, what they call the old world. So when you get to looking into your things with the Torah and all those things, you start to see the connection, not just through the architecture, but through the economics, through the monetary policy, through the system that we're going to be pointing out from the different indigenous peoples and how they had similar monetary systems from one side of the world to the other. And that is the signal to let you know that indigenous peoples, Moorish peoples, we are a global people. We are a global people. So we're going to open it up with a couple things, starting with the monetary policy here. And how monetary policy actually works, what it means, what it's about, those type of things. Also introducing the point of the Federal Reserve itself being looked at as a temple, a mosque, and how the bank itself is considered temples or churches, however you want to look at it. And we're going to really dive into these things here. So we're going to put some links in the chat for y'all so y'all can check them out. But for those that are listening from YouTube, that'll be listening to the replays from YouTube, you can go to federalreserve.gov and just type in monetary policy, and it should pop up. That's one of the resource links that we're going to be putting here in the chat. And of course, I'll drop the Wikipedia link in here as well. That way you all can keep up with us with these reference points that we're going to be reading from and siphoning information from. We're also going to be reading from Investopedia, monetary policy, meaning types, and tools. So it's basically like a little syllabus, real quick, on the things that we're going to be getting into for this series. So that way y'all can keep up with what we're talking about here and what we're getting into. Like I said, just going into that deep dive of how indigenous culture affects what you call the monetary system today. Because we see from the economic series how concepts from ancient Babylon, ancient Egypt, how it engulfed or unfolded and became part of the way of thinking for monetary, the economic philosophy that we have today. So we're gonna get into all that and bring it back tenfold, especially with the economics portions of this. And like I said, connect the dots on how religion or different religions affected the monetary policy in the system. So some would consider this like a little master class that we'll be giving during these Koopas or these sermons. But it is what it is. We got to inform our people and give them the knowledge on these things. And also connecting the dots to how spiritual currency works. Some are calling it social credit now, different things that it's kind of branching off into now, but how spiritual currency works. So you're going to see a great perspective from how those that have vast amount of spiritual currency and the elite of those, how they behave versus those that have physical currency and vast amounts of physical currency and how they behave in comparison to those who carry a lot of spiritual currency. The different perspectives. We don't jump into it all. We don't get into the meats and potatoes behind it. So the last link I dropped in the chat is the Wikipedia link for monetary policy. Just to get us going, we're gonna start off there, and then we're gonna close out. As I said, a couple words, touch on a few things after this. But just to know what we're getting into as we continue on. But this is, like I said earlier, we got to get into these things from our standpoint, because if we don't know the history of these things, we don't know where these things will be going and the direction they'll be going. We won't have at least a base insight on the direction that can be going, right? Especially with us as indigenous people not being the teacher and the leaders of the narrative behind the knowledge and information and what gets created out of these things, projects that come out of these things, the works that come out of these things. So, from the reference of the Wikipedia on monetary policy, it states, monetary policy is the policy adopted by the monetary authority of a nation to affect monetary and other financial conditions to accomplish broader objectives like high employment and price stability, normally interpreted as a low and stable rate of inflation. Further purposes of a monetary policy may be to contribute to economic stability or to maintain predictable exchange rates with other currencies. Today, most central banks in developed countries conduct their monetary policy within an inflation targeting framework, whereas the monetary policy of most developing central banks targets some kind of a fixed exchange rate. A third monetary policy strategy targeting the money supply was widely followed during the 1980s, but has diminished in popularity since then, though it is still the official strategy in a number of emerging economies. All right, so that's just a little quick basis on the monetary policy. It also states the tools of monetary policy vary from central bank to central bank, depending on the country's stage of development, institutional structure, tradition, and political system. So you see how politics plays a part into the monetary policy. So that means economics is the end goal for the monetary system, and politics and culture plays a part into this as well. So it states interest rate targeting is generally the primary tool being obtained either directly via administratively changing the central bank's own interest rates, or indirectly via open market operations. And open market means the people, the open market of the investors and the people in the market. Interest rates affect general economic activity and consequently employment and inflation via a number of different channels, known collectively as the monetary transmission mechanism, and are also an important determinant of the exchange rate. Other policy tools include communication strategies like forward guidance, and in some countries, the setting of reserve requirements. Monetary policy is often referred to as being either expansionary, which means stimulating economic activity and consequently employment and inflation, or contractionary, which means dampening economic activity, hence decreasing employment and inflation. Some would call that a crash, or even forcing a depression or a recession on an economy. So what they do is they dampen the economic activity to decrease employment and also inflation of the currency of that economy. So it says monetary policy affects the economy through financial channels like interest rates, exchange rates, and prices of financial assets. And today we live in an asset-based world, not a sweat equity-based world or economy. We have things based, and more specifically in America, and countries that kind of work on the same program as America, they're based on a asset base versus income based and sweat equity based monetary policy. So we want to keep that in mind as well. So it also states this is in contrast to fiscal policy, which relies on changes in taxation and government spending as methods for a government to manage business cycle phenomena such as recessions. In developed countries, monetary policy is generally formed separately from fiscal policy. Modern central banks in developed economies being independent of direct government control and directives. So a lot of central banks are not even connected to the government. They exist on their own sovereign authority. So this is a part of what I was saying as far as the bank being the temple is treated as those in a faith-based organization. Same way. And then we're going to get into how a lot of the things connect back to faith, such as one of the good terms that a lot of people that are studious know is the good faith doctrine, and get into things like that. So we're gonna get into the history next week. Things like that start going even deeper. So understand that conducting, or the best way to conduct monetary policy, that's something that's active and is real debated. It's a real debated topic. This is why I said we got to get into that conversation of economics. It needs to be a priority type conversation, especially amongst indigenous people. And the research, got to get heavy into the research. It's real debated. So understand monetary policy also, it draws its information on monetary economics and other fields of macroeconomics. So we got to get into this economics conversation, get into the philosophy of economics, and this monetary policy conversation and series that we're going to be having is only to further that. So we'll be getting into the history of it, getting into some of the other reference points that I put in the chat as well next week. But I wanted to go ahead and just open up the doorway having the monetary series and just give the best fundamental knowledge that we can. We're going to talk about which currencies are pretty much the best currencies, but top currencies, and just other more jewels that you should understand about the monetary policy and the monetary system. So we're gonna get into the knowledge behind it, the history behind it, and also, like I said, the spirituality behind it, and where these things derive their origins from. Because if you look into the text, we know that Jesus was sold for 30 pieces of silver. What was so important about the 30 pieces of silver, that one of the disciples wanted to turn the Messiah in for, or turn his back on the Messiah for 30 pieces of silver? What kind of weight did 30 pieces of silver hold during that time? So we're going to get into some things, connect the dots, follow the money, get into the scripture. You got to read the scriptures. You got to read your Bible. You got to read your holy text. You got to read the Qur'aan. You have to read the Atra Hasis, the Gilgamesh Tablets, or Gilgamesh epics, things like that. Get into the information, deep dive in. What is the Urantia? What is the Bhagavad Gita? Whatever it may be, do research. We don't need our people, especially people of indigenous descent, out there just arguing and getting duped, especially with what's going on in today's current events, which we're about to get into for a second because it's just me here tonight. But I'll kind of touch on some of the things that are taking place currently right now and just give a quick update, and then we can jump right into our weekly readings from else of the Qur'an. But with that, and before that, I'm going to do a quick real reset. So, welcome to Branch Temple number 24 of the Moorish Science Temple of America. We are a global branch temple of the Moorish Science Temple of America. We're teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed. That they may learn to love instead of hate. Come and link yourself with the family of nations by clicking that block of words at the top that says World Temple. Join us. And we give us information as needed. So with that, we're going to get a quick few updates on what's going on. Right now, we have the situation with Israel and Palestine. So, as I was saying, you all want to get up on your research, get up on your information, kind of go back. If you do end up in the conversation or some type of discussion about what's taking place right now, currently, with our current events, as well as some of these things that are taking place politically. You have to be politically astute on the information in politics, and just current events and things. And I would advise you put your new logical thinking cap on. We do have our own democratic party, but just like anything else, we have to build up social currency. So that's one of the things that we're talking about here during the monetary series, because social currency is very, very, very important, and it really grasps people's attention. And we're not necessarily needing to grasp people's attention, because that's one of the things about faith, especially the sacred orders, is we don't go recruiting for people. We don't have to go recruit people. But we do go out and set the example of faith as the prophet wanted us to do. So no, we're not necessarily evangelists, which to us epistemologically means evil angels. But we do go and propagate the faith and set the example of the faith and how to live, and especially with whoever your rabbi, whoever your guru, rabboni, teacher, leader, etc., whatever it may be. They're the ones that's supposed to be setting the best example, the one that's out front. Amen. So with that, we're gonna jump into our weekly reads for Holy Qur'an, and we're gonna go over another section here until we close out this chapter that we're in. But we also on our way to monetization. It's gonna take about 1 years of time, but we are over the mark. As I mentioned last week, we're definitely over the mark. I have 1,000 subscribers, over 1,000 subscribers, and we are over 4,000 watch hour time. So we actually hit 5,000 watch hours. So we are definitely over the mark, and we're going to be coming with more from that. And building our social currency, and we're going to continue on. So with that, we're going to jump right into God's Holy Qur'an. And I'm going to close this out with our holy instructions and mandatory literature for tonight. Right, y'all. So we're going to be reading from chapter 39. I got to check what section we're on here. So we can continue from where we left off last week. Chapter 39 was kind of long. We also going to be getting into reading all the tablets here, just bit by bit. We're going through a portion of the tablets as well. So we're going to be doing a lot of reading, a lot of reference information is going to be given, pointed out as we go. So it's going to be knowledge packed, fully packed, and you can have conversations or discussions about it. So we're definitely going to be getting into. We're definitely going to be getting into it a lot here as we continue on. So, all right, so we do got a ways to go. Do got a ways to go. Yeah, so we got at least about 3-4 more pages left. So I'm gonna go ahead and read this section here that we left off on. And we can close it out with that one section because it's about a page long, so we can close it out with that. And then we'll jump right into our holy instructions. So this section is called the tribe of Judah. Only comes by facts. He will Sheik make 12 springs gush forth. The Israelites are tormented by the Elohim. And the ayahs read for this section, it states that, and amongst the kindred of Moshe is a Umattu nation, tribe of Al Yahud or Judah, who comes by the fact and by it they deal justly. And we not he. The Elohim Anunnaki divided the children of Jacob or Israel into 12 tribal nations. So you have the tribal, the names of the tribes. You have Jacob, which means he shall increase, a son of Jacob, elder of the two, born to him by Rachel. You have Reuben, which means affliction, eldest son of Jacob by Leah. Simeon, meaning hearing, son of Jacob and Leah. Levi, being attached to the law, son of Jacob and Leah. Judah, guidance, celebrated, son of Jacob and Leah, Ishakar, meaning reward, son of Jacob and Leah, Zebulun, meaning habitation, son of Jacob and Leah, Benjamin, son of my right hand, son of Jacob and Rachel, Dan, which means judge, son of Jacob and Bilhah, and Naphtali, meaning my wrestling son of Jacob, and my wrestling son of Jacob and Bilhah, Gad, meaning good fortune, son of Jacob and Zilpah, and Asher, meaning happy, son of Jacob and Zilpah. And when Moshe, Inosites, asked for a drink, we not eat. The Elohim Anunnaki said, our not mine, way, inspiration towards Moshe, to hit the stone with his rod, staff, and two little springs gushed forth before their eyes. And indeed, each Inosite knew their drinking place. And we not he, the Elohim Anunnaki, shaded them with clouds, and we, the Elohim Anunnaki, sent down to them manna, which is reaching mushroom, and quails, saying, eat of the agreeable things, of which we, the Elohim, have provided you. And they did not harm us, the Elohim Anunnaki, by rebelling. They only harmed themselves. And when it was said to them, the Israelites or Jacobites, reside in this village, Palestine, in the land of Canaan, and eat of it wherever you desire. And they said, a remission for the sins, and enter the gate in prostration. We, the Elohim, will forgive you for katiyatukum, your sins. We, the Anunnaki, will increase the reward of our Musanim, the ones who does that which is best. So those who were unjust amongst them, the Jacobites, or the 70 Pharisees of Israel, changed the same Torah to the Talmud. Besides that, which was spoken to them by Moshe, so we not either Elohim Anunnaki, sent upon them a plague, or holocaust, from the skies, for they were unjust, and asked them about their village that was neighboring the sea. That's when they transgressed in the Sabbath, when their fish came or appeared to them on the day of their Sabbath. And the day they did not keep the Sabbath, they did not come to them. Like that, we, the Elohim Anunnaki, tested them because they were acting impiously. And when a nation from amongst them said, why do you advise a kindred who, the source, Allah, Mulikum, is destroying them? Or, Mu'ad, the Hibuhum, torments them, a forceful pain. They said, an apology to your master, who was robbed, that perhaps they would tremble and fear. And when they forgot what they had been reminded of, we, the Elohim Anunnaki, delivered those who forbade wickedness. And we, the Anunnaki, took those who were unjust by way of a severe torment because they acted impiously. So when they, the children of Israel or Jacob, exceeded all bounds of what they had been forbidden, breaking the Sabbath, we, the Elohim Anunnaki, said to them, be monkeys, shaggies, or regress back to Homo erectus, driven away, despised. The Elohim test Inosites while agreeable with disagreeable deeds. And when Yorah, master, sustainer, made known that he would verily raise to life, sent against them to the day of resurrection those who torment them with an evil pain. Surely Yorah is quick in punishment, and he is Ghafur, forgiving, Rahim, merciful. And we, the Elohim Anunnaki, cut and separated, or scattered, cut and separated, which means they separated and scattered them into the planet Queen, into nations. The Jacobites were mixed into all nations, the Jewish. Some of them are perfectionists, and some of them are less than that. And we, the Elohim Anunnaki, tested them by way of Hasinat, beautiful deeds and bad deeds, so that they might return. So succeed after that, a successor. They inherited the scripture, taking the material things of the low life, and they say it will be forgiven us. And if material things come to them like it, they take it also. Was not the fulfillment of a promise of the scripture taken from them, that they would not say of Allah anything except the truth, facts beyond any doubt, and they, the Rasul, study what is in it. And Al-Dar, the abode of the end, is better for those who tremble at the mention. Don't you have any intellect? And of those who take hold of or keep the scriptures and keep up salat, salutations, as worship. Surely we, the Elohim Anunnaki, don't neglect rewarding the perfectionists. And when we, the Elohim Anunnaki, raise the mountain above them as if it were a mere shadow, and they thought it was failing, and they thought it was falling down upon them, we said they hold of what we, the Anunnaki, gave you. Be cool with them, with strong force, and remember what is in it, so that you might tremble and fear. So that's the end of this section. We're going to pick it up from here next week. But this really gets into what we just talked about with the indigenous people of Palestine being those Moorish people, the original people, the land of Canaan. So you gotta read the Torah, you gotta read the Bible, because as it say, the elect will be fooled. So you gotta follow somebody out here who got you stuck into Trinitarian doctrine, who got to worshiping Jesus, and it's literally Jesus is just Yahweh. And he also said that you are Yahweh. John 10:34. But he said he is not the center, he is not the authority. So therefore, Yeshua is not the same as God the Father. And that's one of the things the Qur'an is a reminder for as well. So a lot of this is going to be coming out too more in the monetary series as we get into that, like I said earlier, because a lot of the monetary system today that we have with bribery and a whole boatload of other things, a lot of that comes out of the church. The original philosophers, and they were coming through the Enlightenment movement, and a lot of that was tampered with by the church as well. So you're going to see a lot of pushback coming from the Roman church, especially with the way the monetary policy is today. When it comes to what we just read, like taking away jobs or taking away the inflation or trying to dampen the inflation or even stimulate it and increase inflation. So a lot of that's going to go back into things that happen in the religious history, getting into different sects of different religions that came out of Rome. So we're going to do a deep dive into that as we continue on here in the weeks to come. So let me go ahead and put the link at the top so we can get our whole instructions on. So, make sure y'all check out the And we are definitely on our way to contemplation. So we're gonna see where we at this upcoming month. We'll be monetized. Building our social currency. Continue to build. We've got some good videos that we'll to it as well. Also, posting videos, content, different speakers. Everybody from the master teacher, Dr. Zodok, and a lot of motivational speakers, people like Brother Thomas, Les Brown, many others. A load of prominent information, as you should know. All of the Sufis consider themselves respect all faiths and all religious cultures. As mystics, this is one of the things that we really appreciate about the prophet and the works. So, nonetheless, we're going to jump right into our holy instructions. As you know, holy day, Friday is the holy day, or you will know when the call is proclaimed to supplication on Friday, the day of assembly, hasten earnestly to the remembrance of the Heavenly Father and Divine Mother in the fall business of traffic. That is best for you if you but do. And when prayer is finished, then may ye disperse through the land and seek the bounty of God and celebrate the praises of God of 10 and without stint, that ye may prosper. All chaplaincy temple services and means of be open and closed promptly according to the circle 7 and love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Friday is our holy day of rest because on a Friday the first man was formed in flesh, and on a Friday the first man departed out of flesh and ascended unto his Father God of love. For that cause, Friday is our holy day for all Muslims and peacemakers all over the world. This is according to Act 2 of the Divine Constitution and Bylaws by the Prophet Noah, which states all temples and supporting temples are to conduct holy day service every Friday, starting promptly at their respective time and ending promptly at their respective time. All civilians, patrons, denizens, prospects, and ministers are expected to attend the temple for the Friday holy day temple service and meet. On Fridays, the Moorish American, Moorish Asian, and Moorish African Muslims and peacemakers all come together to supplicate and to illustrate that which Allah has blessed them with. The temple services are open according to divine love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And no time what templars, adepts, ministers, patrons, or outside congregational guests be allowed to disrupt the holy day service. Nor will civilians be admitted under the influence of alcohol or any severe intoxicant. All templars, adepts, and civilians attending the holy day service must have their heads covered with either a turban, fez, or kufi, or spiritual covering. Baseball caps should not be worn in the temple or during temple service. The Sunday school temple service by me is mandatory in all Moorish nationals. Templars and temple denizens must properly attend the temple service and send their children to the Sunday school gathering. The temple must conform himself and herself. The teacher must conform himself and herself to the temple one-on-one questionnaire, and that every civilian man, woman, and child exercise his or her 5 senses was able to do so. Because out from your Sunday school comes the guiders of the nation, and now the entire global village. According to Act 5 of the additional laws by the Prophet Noah, every supporting temple should have 2 Sunday school gatherings held. The first meeting should be held 1 to 2 hours before the adult service. Children's Sunday school should be conducted by a regular children's Sunday school program. The Sunday school gathering is designed to assist the temple in learning the temple one-on-one questionnaire and developing an understanding of just what these holy keys mean and how they are to be applied to our everyday lives. Divine Constitution and bylaws, along with the Moorish prayer, the Holy Covenant of the Asiatic nation, El's Holy Injiyl, El's Holy Qur'aan, and the civic conditions or lessons of the Holy Temple of Moorish Science are also subjects of major concern for the apprentice who try to complete his or her mandatory requirements for pronouncing that temple civilianship and global nationality. All lessons for the adult Sunday school gathering must be prepared by a Grand Sheik of Divine Minister or an assistant Grand Sheik. Lessons called by us Novites editions may be submitted to the apprentice for completion and returned to the temple. Once the lessons are completed and graded, they must be placed in the active members temple district file. The Sunday school temple service and meeting is a wonderful opportunity to study the legend teachings of the prophet. No civilian is to become disruptive during the Sunday meeting. All temples must bring paper and pen to the temple service and meeting along with the temple, basic temple literature and assignments. No temples for patrons to eat food or other snacks during the temple service or meeting, but water is permitted. All temples must attend their Sunday temple service and meeting as they attend the Holy Day temple service and meeting. No for called out for by the prophet Moorish it is required as a matter of temple law. According to the Divine Constitution, Act 7 and point, all temples must attend their temple services and meetings to become a part and parcel of all uplifting acts in the Moorish of America. And now also Moorish conservation and enjoying Royal Island on behalf of all indigenous people. For membership, any heads of temple or temple jurisdictions are not to charge for naturalization or the overcharge for cause, but to anything issued by and for profit. Those who contribute to any of the proceedings are not more civilians or patrons or robbers. Temple nationality and membership in the Holy Temple Fast Estate or public beneficiary trust, sisters and brothers, kin and kinfolk, is free, not only here, but all over the world. All kin and kinfolk desiring to become a civilian of a supported temple must follow these instructions from the temple secretary and acquire the application for naturalization found on your temple website. The secretary of the temple jurisdiction will help all newcomers by implementing the naturalization affidavit and application for membership in the temple fast estate or public beneficiary trust to the new prospective civilian of the temple fast estate or public beneficiary trust and arranging for him or her to be consulted by the royal council of said temple or support the temple. The chairman or woman will set the date for the new temple prospect to be interviewed by the royal council. The new temple court civilian upon completion of the royal council's consultation at the new council gathering or Sunday school gathering on Sunday. The new templars will proclaim their temple nationality at the next upcoming holiday temple gathering. After the new civilian prospect proclaims their nationality, they will be given the mandatory requirements necessary to earn their free national name and royal title of nobility as a true American royal. These requirements are as follows in accordance with Chapter 47 of the Moorish Sacred Holy Qur'aan, called Egypt, the dominion of the Empire of Africa, Chapter 25 of the Moorish Qur'an, called the Holy Covenant of the Asiatic Nation, the Moorish prayer, including the Quran questions for Moorish Americans, Asians, and Africans. The divine constitution and bylaws, the additional laws and the precepts, statutes, and ordinances from Hell's Holy Torah, Hell's Holy Injiyl, Hell's Holy Quran, the Holy Tabernacle Family Guide, and also the Holy Tablets, through our civics 101 course in the school district and sacred halls of learning, which is called New University by us of the Holy Tablets, science for everyone of the Holy Bible. Once a new civilian, all templars has learned these additional lessons available to the best of their ability. He or she will be interviewed by the Templars Royal Council as the chaplaincy to determine if the new civilian is qualified to represent himself or herself as a faithful Moorish American, Moorish African, and Moorish Asian Muslim, or any indigenous peacemaker, and communicated to the ignorant for their instructions, and communicated to the wise to guide on improvement. Once the new civilian attempter has cleared the mandatory requirements with the Royal Council, he or she will be naturalized by the Grand Sheik and the Prime Minister of said supporting temple. All right, y'all. So this is how you join the Moorish Temple of America. Proclaiming nationality is just this. These are just the basics, and that also comes with our proclamation of nationality, which we call the Holy Shahada. And this procedure of pronunciation of one's nationality will be held on the day for us civilians, denizens, temple peacemakers, or Muslims all over the world. During the ceremony, the new civilian attendants will be ordained an El Bay or Day and given his or her royal peerage title of King, Lady, Noble, and Maya, Prince or Princess by a Grand Sheik and or Divine Minister, and also receive his or her nationality card and button from the Divine Minister of the Grand Major Temple. Upon conclusion of the nationality proclamation, the Grand Sheik and Divine Minister will have the civilian temple prospect stand while he or she reads the authority of the Moorish Temple. It is by virtue of the religious corporation Act document that can be found in her revised statute that gives the Moorish Temple of America, Asian Africa, the authority to restore the nationality and birthrights of the lost Asiatics of America, Asian Africa, and all world islands, and give them the title to their vast estate and their heritage. The Grand Sheik and all divine ministers to read from the card and have the national state of Allah's God and know majority of the prophet and our Moorish American, African, or Asian, and or world island. This is our Moorish clarification of faith for Shahada and our pledge of allegiance. The new civilian and templars free national name should then be added to the temple book of life as they enroll in the Civics 101 course and our complimentary World Civics Club. The nationality ceremony should be conducted by the Grand Sheik and Divine Minister or any other Divine Minister so designated by the Grand Sheik and Divine Minister in his or her time of absence, and most notably by the Assistant Grand Sheik and Divine Minister. The nationality card and naturalization application must be signed bearing the name and title of the Grand Sheik or Finance who issued the application they call it, and the date of its issuance. The Religious Corporation Act has deemed the Global Independent School District and the Incorporated and Chartered Moorish Science Temple of America, Africa, and Asia as a religious trust and theocratic government established in 1928 on August 20th. This religious trust is the true global trusteeship for the Holy Family of Nations formed. With that, y'all, we gonna close it out for tonight. As we say, every week is just that simple. All the steps, directions of the life, and it actually get you out of trouble. There's some things that you can't extract from it, teach you how to move in the system. So, we can be aware. We don't have someone who's standing out front inform you on these things. You can't get away from grabbing hold and not be able to find your way out, which hole you made the wrong turn up. So, let's go ahead and get into this mandatory literature from the prophet. We're going to close out tonight. Tonight's sermon, tonight's that. I'll see y'all next week, next Friday or this Sunday. You accept the invite from the Sunday school gathering, I'll be there. And remember, it is mandatory, so please be aware of that. So we're going to jump right into prophets wanted to all peacemakers, just to be read in every service and temple meeting. The prophet said, I hereby inform all members that they must end all radical speech while at work in homes or on the streets. Look for peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your card to Europeans and cause confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation. Failure to obey these orders will be a severe consequence. Live for love, true peace, freedom, and justice. When these references are violated, justice will take its course. Any member of who malicious and assault the temple or prophet or violate the divine covenant of the Lord, seek their reward from above for their unjust deeds. All true ones will and must obey the law as laid down to them by their prophet. If they lose confidence in their prophet, they should turn in their card and buttons, teaspoon, and turban and fez and return to the state where God, the prophet, found you. This is a holy by the prophet of Jali, and if the prophet is not right, the temple is not right. The prophet, therefore, is sending out the divine plea to all Moorish Americans that they do their part of protecting their prophet and the temple. This is an everlasting movement founded by the prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways. True peace. It takes a lot of spiritual discipline to do the work, to be it. This is people that are looking for discipline, structure, and their lives spiritually. I know what a lot of people understand of religion, but religion, as far as in the sense of discipline and structure, is the last of your problem. This is why I said last year, in the beginning of this year, is that a lot of people are not going to make it to the direction of things and where we're headed. Because we want to have a high frequency environment. A high frequency environment where people are disciplined and we can carry on that tradition. I was in a conversation this week where they were talking about having our own Greek town, our own Chinatown, things like that. But I pointed out in the tab, in the discussion, if we notice, all of these places are named after a nationality. So, of course, I'm like, well, what are we going to call it? Morocco town? Africa town? Or which country? America town? So we want to be, we want to be real astute about these things and take this stuff serious, especially about the conversation about having our own, type of Chinatown or whatever it might be. German, they even have a German town. So we're going to bring that up also during the monetary series as well. But I want to go ahead and go over this last message from the prophet that's supposed to be proclaimed in every temple meeting and temple service. So make sure if you're at another temple, make sure they're going over these literatures. You know, these are one of the things that should be expressed during the temple service. And anywhere you see someone falling behind or lacking, for those in their right mind, you should be helping and being a service to the people. So with that, we're gonna get into this last message that's supposed to be proclaimed, and that is to be proclaimed in every temple meeting and temple service. Islam. The prophet said, I'm glad to know that I have a few faithful Muslims among you all, and I desire for them to know the truth and the divine truth. There's a host of jealousy about me and the movement now by the same people of our side of the nation that claim that I was only a joke and unreal. But now, since they have found out from the government officials and the nations of the earth that this is the only sole foundation that all Asiatics must depend upon for their earthly salvation as American citizens, they're working every scheme that they can to disqualify me so they may take charge of the situation. I have notified all these things to you long ago in the past. It is through the faithful Moors that attribute to the movement and uplifting funds. The ones that paid their divine respect to me in the movement will be remembered. That's why I'm calling upon all faithful Moors to increase their faithfulness to your prophet and your divine Moorish movement. I need finance, and I need it badly. Never before have I needed finance so badly as I do at present, so I can shove aside the discord that is facing the nation. It all comes from jealousy because of my fame and ability. The nation of the world will not recognize the movement without me, the prophet, being head. It has been proven by my works, which I have performed in the past few years. Prophet of Israel. All right, y'all. So we're going to jump right into this Moorish prayer. We're going to take it on home. Because it's out for tonight. Replays is on, so y'all go back and check it out. Like I said, I'm hoping they give us access to our replays here soon so we can start putting it on YouTube. But nonetheless, let's close it out with prayer. Hope y'all enjoy the rest of y'all Friday. Hope y'all enjoy the rest of y'all Friday here. So we're going to take it on home. So y'all know how it go. Facing the east, feet at 45-degree angle. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation. By night and by day, through his holy prophet, I will draw it. Amen. All right, y'all. Truth, peace. See y'all next week for this Sunday. True peace. What do?